Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Ball Watching. It's a pleasure to be back, Justin. It's a pleasure to have that bit of your soul back after the Dementors sucked it out during busy season, Justin. How does it feel to be home free, at least for now, and not in the throes of whatever the hell was going on there?
Feels way better, Jake. I told people on Monday, it's like I slept 45 hours in the last 4 days prior to that, like over the weekend, just a complete reset. I still got a couple things to do and knock out in the next month or two, but wow, getting over that big first hurdle is great. But Jake, honestly, I was talking to our underdog contact, and I was like, yeah, Jake can't join today because he's got something worse than busy season. He's got a sick Will. He's got a sick little kid. How's he doing?
We've got influenza season and any other sickness under the sun. And our son has caught it. So we have been homebound for a couple of days. I think on the ups, definitely. But I had to stay home for the city match, which is okay. But Energizer Park looked like it was rocking, absolutely rocking. The light show, everything looked hype. I really hope that I can catch some of that when I get to my first home match of the season, Justin. So I'll be watching that. But first segment, gotta start us off. I'm gonna challenge you, Justin, for what are you watching? No Severance allowed on this one. I know you're watching it still. It's a great show. We're hopefully turning some people into some Severance listeners here. But what would your Audi be watching here, Justin?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Give me at least a little bit of an intro to segue it into there. So if you haven't watched Severance, you'll get the Audi aspect of it in literally episode 1. But my Audi has been enjoying college basketball. SLU just had a nice little buzzer beater essentially last night. Robbie Avila taking the lane, scoring with 4 seconds left. We get another dub after going 7-0 run in the last minute 30, twice the second time this year. And then Mizzou. I don't even know what to say about these Tigers. They didn't win a game in the SEC last year. They're on a hot streak. They've now broken into Ken Palm's top 10 after absolutely dismantling South Carolina last night as well. So that team, Jake, is a team that I would not want to face in the upcoming March Madness because also, I don't know if you saw it, they have a 7'5" dude. They essentially have Wembanyama on the bench, and he's been out all season. It seemed like he's going to be a redshirt. They had him as questionable last night. And this man's like shooting threes, doing windmill dunks. Like they might be adding Wemby to a team that's already top 10 in Ken Palm. So I'm enjoying college basketball right now. What about you?
Yeah, I am enjoying tons of different shows, but the one that actually started last night, and I just skipped straight to the City episode on. But if you all haven't tuned in yet, as part of the season pass and everything that Apple and MLS are doing together, Onside is the brainchild of MLS and Apple. And for anyone that's watched, Formula One, Drive to Survive or Full Swing, shows of that type nature that kind of just give you more of an in-depth perspective into some of the players, and in this case, some of the clubs and the inner workings and relationships and drama, which I'm telling you, if you want to get your girlfriend, your wife, your mom, any female in your life kind of hooked into soccer, this is a great entry point. I recommend Onside, and specifically episode 4 is the city-oriented episode. They also had some a-hole from Kansas on there as well. Yes, JT in the comments saying, does make you hate Johnny Russell. It was already there for me, but definitely gets backed up. And it's so funny because I'll digress, I promise, but both players, spoiler alert, that they follow from each respective team talk about how much they love the team and how much the city means to them. And they both went opposite directions, not at the same time, but they are both no longer on those teams. Spoiler, but definitely recommend Onside if you haven't watched it. There's a bunch of episodes that aren't City, so I'm going to watch those as well. But it's just another cool way, I think, to engage with fans and give us some of the off the field stuff and some of the things that make them human. And I really do think it does make you think a little bit more as a fan about what the things are that these guys go through, not just on the field, but off the field as well.
Yeah, I think that's an important point, Jake. We talked about it last year with Leuven and some of the things that are happening off the field and what it means to be a captain and realizing like, hey, these people they're gonna try their best and they're gonna get absolutely destroyed on Twitter if they don't do their best, which we'll kind of talk about later in this episode about what already happened with our city team. But it's something that you need to take a step back and realize that these guys are humans. Everybody's be like, yeah, it's their job. I'm promising you right now, all these listeners that are in here, not everybody's doing the best at their job at every day, but everybody's trying their best. So just take a step back, keep that in mind as you're watching this, and have a little feel-good episode with this. It really is getting a look inside with Diego and Lutz and all these guys. Pop in and join the series that Apple just dropped.
Good segue, Justin. I think, not intentional, but very, very good organic segue into we want to have a couple bits of non-game topics from the last match we just played, our first match. And those topics are some incomings and outgoings, some late ones on City here, with the first one, definitely the one that hits home the most, being Indiana Vasilev's trade away from St. Louis City and to Philadelphia Union to reunite with Carnell. So what Philadelphia get is just Indy, which is a lot. And then what we get is up to $1.25 million in general allocation money spread across both this year and next year, as well as a sell-on percentage. I would love to see what that percentage is. I feel like I usually see floated like 10, 15% as well. So, you do hope for him, and you'd hope for him anyways. But as a club now, you're really hoping for him, because if he makes a jump and, has a great year, maybe he gets bought by someone else and we're getting some windfall from that. But Justin, the news hit, social media blew up, they do their thing, and everyone, at least whiplash type of reaction is, what are they doing? What's the club doing? This is our guy. How could they? What could have gone on behind the scenes to, force this move? I broke it down into head and heart, and I've got a lot more on the head column than I do in the heart column. But Justin, I'm curious to hear your thoughts, because from a business sense, and again, sport is both, right? It's business and it's personality. It's what makes you, it's what you feel inside, right? That's kind of the best part about sports for us fans. But from a business and just head perspective, just logic, it's a move that makes a lot of sense, right? Indy's in his final year of his contract. He's on high wages, almost $300,000 a year, which is high in soccer, if anyone that doesn't know. He's down the depth chart for us, I think, at this point, with our attackers and some of our new incomings from last season. We're changing playing style. We've changed coach. We know that he and Carnell were super close, and he said as much last year in that press conference. My hot take, Justin, on this too, was an angle of the U.S. men's national team, where he's just coming off that camp. Pochettino is a guy that he's at least said that he does value MLS. He does value those players, and he wants his players playing. And if Indy doesn't have a locked up starting spot, or at least a view into tons of minutes, I think he wants to do his best for himself. And clearly it sounds like he made that known to Lutz & Co.
Yeah, and I would say also this one, Jake, unfortunately from a head perspective of what doesn't make sense business-wise, it makes sense for both us and Indy. You saw the tweet from Taylor Twellman saying that Indy was the one that actually asked if he could be let go. And it's a minutes thing. If you look at this guy, he's on a great trajectory to continue his career. And the last thing you want is not to be a consistent starter. He needed to go somewhere where he knew he'd get minutes. And also from a playing style perspective, he'll be playing against Bradley Carnell. So he's literally a plug and play guy for them. So obviously he wasn't an immediate plug and play guy, because this literally happened the week before the season started. But that's how slowly some of these wheels turn. So, I mean, from my perspective, Jake, from a heart perspective, we wasted probably a good 15 minutes on our season preview talking about how much we love Indy. And it's not just what we see on the field, but it's a glue guy. It's a locker room guy. It's a morale guy. It's the guy you see on every social media post that they have with City. So obviously Apple even clinged to him in the episode that you were talking about. So from that sense, it's tough, but ultimately it just business-wise, it makes sense for both sides.
Yeah, and you hit on the heart side perfectly. I mean, am I gonna miss him? Absolutely. Such a fun guy to watch. Like, yeah, like you said, he popped up in every single social media video. In so many ways, he was a great face of the franchise, and so there is a gap there. I hope we have the guys to fill it, and I'm confident that we will. But from a playing perspective, I don't think we're gonna be too much worse off for that. And I do wish him the most success. And we're going to see him very, very soon. Hopefully does not come back to bite us. But what a deal for Lutz & Co. grabbing him on the expansion draft and then flipping for 1.25. Other news, Justin, we made two kind of late signings, both free agents for us that probably went under the radar a little bit because they were right around game time for our first match. But we signed Alfredo Morales, who was trialing with St. Louis City SC. You've got this side of it, and you've got Joey Zielinski, who you signed as one of your super draft picks. So Alfredo Morales comes in. He's a veteran, played in the Bundesliga, played in Bundesliga 2. If you're hearing that, you're like, wow, I think I've heard this story before. It's because you have a lot. But Morales, again, free agent. He was on trial with us. He's 34, on some pretty high wages. They haven't really talked about what they signed him for in terms of those wages, but we have him for this season, and an option for the next. Like I said, he was a guy that has a good, base of experience from both Germany and here in the U.S. He's won an MLS Cup, and he's, crossed paths, of course, with Lutz in his past with Fortuna Dusseldorf. So it makes a lot of sense. He's a central midfielder, can flex into the defensive midfield as well. And I've called that out as a gap for us, Justin, before, the depth that we have behind Leuven. I worry about sometimes, and especially a guy like Durkin too, who's still working off his injury. So it's a good signing. I think it's a very practical signing, very low risk, higher type ceiling signing. So I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's one that it's low risk, high reward for us, right? When you're looking at making a sub 300K in wages. So I would say a similar signing with Zielinski. So 37th overall pick that we made this year, signed him for 2025 with options for 2026 through 2028. He's only 22 years old. So if you think about it, he could be a nice right back depth guy. And yeah, I understand right now with our 3 center backs, we have a couple of those guys right now, but at this point, Jake, why not? And you could see, especially, it's perfect kind of a fit right behind Toland. And I think that he would have a very similar playing style. So you could see from what Lute said, he said Joey stood out to us in the super draft, and he has impressed the staff with his effort and his work ethic during preseason camps. He's shown that he has what it takes to contribute to our squad. And we're looking forward to him helping us reach full potential in game mode. That right there, just that sentence where it says his effort and his work ethic, that's what you need to write back. And a young guy. He's a guy out there. Think about it very similarly to Jose Kojima. Let him go out there. Yeah. Let him bust his butt trying to get up and down the field, especially at a right back position when we're needing those guys to get up and down. And so give this guy a try, and we'll see how often he fits in.
Yeah, no, I think that one, again, makes a lot of sense for us. I don't think we're trying to make any late splashes in the market, any big splashes, right? Even with the Indy, money that we're getting from that as well. So I do think we're going to sit on this for a little bit. We're full as a roster now, so we can't have any incomings without outgoings. And I think that'll be that way until we hit the summer window where we're known to be a little more active. But just let's crack into the first game, man. I mean, it was. Let me say 2 things to start. I've seen some really good comments to start off the show, and in the first one I ever saw was Kevin's here from YouTube saying the first match of the season was a decent one, completely dominated the game. It was just disappointing we could not get the W. And we must have some logical listeners here in the room right now, because that's not the rhetoric I was seeing online. But Kevin, I fully agree with you. I see Leonard on here as well, with some similar type vibe and narration to it. But for me, Justin, I thought overall good performance. It made me feel very optimistic. It gave me sort of a proof of concept of what Olaf's bringing to this team, or at least what I think he's trying to bring to this team. Spoiler, we'll hear more about that when we talk to NCAA D1 men's soccer coach for SLU, Kevin Kalish, here coming up in about 15 or so minutes. He'll join us live and we'll get his point of view. But for me, sitting on my couch watching this, it was exciting. We moved the ball differently. We possessed the ball differently. We defended differently. And talk about control. It's the key word of all of preseason. That was a game full of control for us. And yes, performance is good. You got to get the results at home. I'm not going to say you don't, but I'm not hitting the panic button. In fact, I feel very, very good about this and what it could mean for us over a full season.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and the first thing that came out, right, that everybody looks at is what are we looking at from a starting 11 perspective? So, one, we saw no Nilsson. We're like, what's going on with that? Obviously, now news came out. Bone bruise, sustained that in the last friendly, not training, but scans looking to be improving. So, another thing where we're just like, please give this guy a full season. I would love to see what he can do, but seems like we're not turning the page there yet. Same thing with Alm, hip injury, out for another 3 to 4 weeks. So,
What's going on? Like, are these guys under some sort of hex or like voodoo curse? Like, it's always the same people. I don't get it. Are they just prone in training? It's mind-boggling. And I leaned super heavy into Nilsson during the preseason talk that we had for our preview. So I hope that doesn't come back. His sounds a little bit less bad than Alm's. But still, like, it's really disappointing just considering how much Nilsson's making for us and all the hype. Justin, I don't want to steal where you were going there, but like that specifically was a bummer for me. And I feel like if that continues, you gotta part ways.
So honestly, Jake, I think I've been more on that side for the Alm front, just because I feel like we're already so deep in that position. Nilsson, I want to give him a full shot because that guy has had such a history, and I think that he can make a difference in a spot where we're still kind of rotating in a Josh Yarrow and a Kyle Hebert. Alm, it's like, dude, you better get healthy, because right now Simon Betcher is looking fantastic. Just he's put the ball away. We'll touch about that. Klaus, Celio. We're going to have Tolan getting up and down. And then we're also going to be looking at Ostrak coming off the bench as well. And then you bring in Hartel and Toyshirt into this conversation. It's like, we're pretty deep at that point.
Yeah.
If you can't stay healthy, we're going to keep moving on. So I think the Ulm one is a little bit more concerning from a longevity standpoint with this team than Nilsson.
Yeah, I'll close out starting 11 for us. I mean, obviously it was a different back three than we thought too, Justin. We saw Hebert, Yarrow at left and right center back respectively, with Henry Kessler, the center back. And I will say they played really admirably together. It was not my choice back three, but it looked good. And when you limit a team to 0.2 expected goals against, which we've never done before, I'm going to be waxing poetic about it. I think that was a really solid performance from them. Also, good things to see is Durkin and Toyshirt also available just off the bench. We did get to see Toyshirt come on, and he had some good impact off the bench. Durkin, we didn't. And again, I want to just pump the brakes there. I would love to see him in the next game, of course, but this guy, I feel like will be important if we're going to make a run this season and be a really dangerous team consistently. And I think his health is going to be one of those things to watch and hopefully manage over the line. Justin, getting into the actual, game itself, we'll take it in sort of some topics and things that stood out to us. But one of the most immediate things that stood out to me that I think maybe underpins a little bit of what Olaf's bringing to this team is in the first, just maybe after 10 minutes, we were kind of hemmed in our own corner. It was guys like Yarrow built in there. Klaus had even dropped back a little bit. Leuven was in there trying to connect. And in last year's City and years past City, you'd see that ball just get lumped out. And maybe a runner tries to get in the end of it. Just kick it long. We can't get out of here. But Yarrow pulls his head up, looks for the pass, kind of baits his defender in, which is an attacker, and tries to see what is available in terms of getting us to build out of this situation. Because you've also, while you're sucked in, you've sucked in the attack as well. And hopefully if you can get out of here, you've got numbers flying forward and you're countering. And it was done perfectly. It was kind of some 1-2, some 1-2-3 pass work. And then you end up with Klaus, who takes this ball in the dribble, probably 40 or 50 yards at a full sprint. And you end up starting your own attack. It doesn't feel like it used to for us, right? Like that, just one instance is one thing I just wanted to call out immediately. I looked at that. I'm like, this isn't the City that I'm used to, but damn, can I get used to seeing more of that?
Absolutely. And I think the one thing that I also appreciate in this one, Jake, that I would love to see more of, and I feel like we saw a lot in the first season and not in the second season, but we're going to see a lot of it. If anything on this first game tells a tale for the rest of the season, is set pieces. When you talk about this, I think it's a mix of this as well. We look about long throws. Tolan getting that in there. It looked like maybe a foul throw in a couple of those. I don't know really what. I don't know. Multiple of them. So I don't know how that was missed, but throwing it into the Betcher for a point-blank shot there. One. Great highlight, just looking to be able to have a set piece that's really not at your feet and still a very dangerous, one of our best chances. A great save by Stefan there. Number two, the Leuven free kick, curler up over the bar. One, the fact that it was such a nice free kick is positive in itself. But two, the fact that we already kind of have one of those training ground plays to where Kessler is going to spin off in case something like that happens, either off the bar or a parry. Unfortunately, it was slightly offsides. We celebrated a little early, but it's great to see that we're already thinking about those things. And then three, another one is corners. I will say the balls being floated in, Jake, they were solid, not great. This is where I think we might miss a little bit out of Indy because, in my opinion, the one thing that was frustrating to me is the ball gets put into the mixer, but nothing from a header perspective had enough juice on it to even get close to getting by Stefan. So unless it's going to be something that's coming down and then takes a deflection or an additional kick, but there wasn't enough juice to actually put those away straight off the head. And I think that either needs to be the way the ball's whipped in or the location of where it's whipped in as well.
No, I'm aligned with you. And I love that you hit it on the three different types of set pieces, because I didn't really find that many people were talking about that after the game, but I rewatched the game again and I'm like, damn, this is a team that to me cares a lot more about set pieces this year than we did maybe last year. And I think we cared a lot in 2023. We had a lot of good corner goals from what I remember. You want to see a few of those go in, but I think to your point, Justin, if you can carry a threat on set pieces, teams have got to play you super honest, man. I mean, there's a lot of those mixed into a game, even the games that aren't great. And if you can find a way to carry threat and maybe poke in the occasional goal or two every couple of matches there, you're going to be a team that you have to deal with for a lot of opposition. So I love that early sign when I'm watching City. I mean, elephant in the room, and we'll talk about it when we get Coach Kalish on here, Justin, but Mellberg knows ball, man. It's one game sample size. I'm going to do my best not to overreact, but a couple things I wanted to point out that were important to me in describing sort of the highlights from what I saw in Mellberg's first performance as head coach. Highest XG since Hack's first game versus San Jose. Remember how fun that was? That was our highest expected goal output since that match. Berkey had 0 saves, and you might be wondering, well, that doesn't mean it's necessarily a good thing. For us, it's a great thing. We kept that man so busy last year and the year prior, and letting him have 0 work to do and get his first clean sheet. It was his first clean sheet in the last 14 games we played as a team. We had a different sort of defensive line. And when I say that, you can draw with all the different tackles and interceptions you make as a team, you can get a stat that's what's your average line of where you engage that other team. And we've dropped a lot lower on the field in terms of we're engaging a little bit more in our defensive type third, maybe a little bit past half than we were before. That's newer, a little bit more of a mid block coming from this team, which used to be much more of a high block. But Justin, those are a couple of things that stuck out to me. Anything else as you watched that game, you say these could be, sort of pillars of how we might describe or things we might expect to see more of underneath Olof?
I'm going to say one that I loved was your tweet earlier this week on, did anyone know the uptick in passes as well? 561 attempted passes by our boys. We've only outdone this 3 times ever, all in 2024. Then also 400 of those 561, 442 of those were actually completed as well. Only outdone this 5 times ever. And this was 1 in 2023 and 4 in 2024. Yep. This is not just a thing like, oh, they played a lot better, so they're going to control the ball. No, this is a different playing style. And I think a lot of that, Jake, comes with the before game management as well, with us moving to a 3 in the back system, because this is something that with this team, you can move the ball a little bit more like that. We're getting a little bit wider. We're trying to control the game. And then once we're getting past these guys and breaking lines, then we're picking our moments to go. And I really do think that showed in this game, especially when you look at the stat side of it all. I think we talked about it generally, but depending on where you look, 17 total shots for us, 5 on target, compared to their 2 total shots and 0 on target. That's why Mr. Roman Berkey didn't have a single save. So we had 2 big chances, 6 corners to their 1 corner. It's just an overall just incredible game by the guys. Just got to figure out a way to put it away. And unfortunately, Jake, I kind of went back and I was looking at preseason, like, how did we do with that? I thought we did relatively fine, but there's a couple interviews with Olof where he says, yeah, we created a lot of chances and we just need to put them away. I'm just hoping that's not a reoccurring theme.
Yep.
I'm assuming once these guys continue to play with each other and get a little bit more chemistry, we're going to find the back of the net, but just want to keep an eye on it.
Yeah, no, it's valid. And I think, especially when you look at a team like we had last year, that's going to kill your season, totally derail your season for a team like last year. When I think about it this year, again, I'm hoping and praying that's not going to be the case. And for all intents and purposes, I feel like we have to think like that. What makes me more optimistic about our chances is that our defense, and even in our non-preferable, back 3 that we played in that match, they ate everything up, everything over the top. Kessler was there, the last man to make those challenges. Hebert and Yarrow, I think, both acquitted themselves relatively well, especially with Hebert, I would say, playing in a position where, Hebert is a solid defender. He's athletic. You can also see some of his weaknesses or his areas for improvement, because his pass work, he doesn't take the most, risk in his passing. He plays very comfortably and within himself. And that's probably what the coaches say to do as well. But when you can get your back 3, to me, of a Kessler, a Nilsson, maybe a Baumgartel all together on the field at once, a lot of those guys have passing and vision in their locker already. What could be for a defensive 3 that are both solid defensively and can be kind of the first men in your attack. The defensive side for me was the winner of the show. It was just, I'm not used to us being that controlled and that astute in our defense. And I've got to give props to Mellberg for setting us up like that, because it wasn't, again, your main 3. I've also got to give props, Justin, too, in the in-game side for Mellberg. The subs, I know we kind of had a right side lean or tilt to our team. I think that was because you're playing a guy like Horn out at left wing back, and that's probably not the position you want him to be in, but it's a need at this point, and you definitely don't want to play Hebert in that position. So we channeled a lot more down the right, because Totland's just much more of a natural right wing back, and you saw Hartel kind of gravitate towards that area as well and look for combination. So that was happening, but we were aggressive in the subs in terms of taking Leuven out. I'm like, this is your lifeblood of the team, but you're putting Morales in, making his debut in the 65-minute early subs. We've talked about that as a weakness before this team in the past. Clearly not for him. But you make some subs towards the end with Teuscher coming off the bench. And I think he generated some chances. Wallum came off as well. It didn't really do too much. But in-game management, I never felt out of this game, Justin. I don't think Colorado was having the best day either. But I do think Olof, tried to push the envelope a little bit and see if we could change things up to see if we can get a better result.
Right. He's not going to be one that's doing the Greg Berhalter, like, hey, it's 1-1. Like, let's just make sure we sit in. Like, no, let's go for the jugular while also making sure that we realize we do not want to give up a home loss.
Yep.
He's making small tweaks here or there, and you know that it's in his thought process. So it's a good small sample size there. But Jake, saw this comment earlier from Jonathan. He's ready to defend his Klaus takes. I don't know. I need him to comment again. Like, is he ready to defend Klaus or defend his takes on Klaus? Jake, give us your takes.
Yeah. So again, in a similar vein with everyone overreacting about this and writing off the season after one match because we didn't win at home, I want to win those games too. Trust me, I do. And we're going to need to. I don't think it's over without doing that one time. Jonathan, I see your line in the sand. Klaus needs to be sold yesterday. I couldn't disagree anymore with that. But everyone is entitled to their own opinions. I absolutely can agree with that. My thing is, I watched that game again twice, full 90 minutes, unfettered, unbothered. If you watch the game, of course, let me just caveat, you got it. You're the number 9. You need to be scoring goals for us. Doesn't need to be every game, but it should be, in the mix. We should be getting double digits goals from a 9. And I expect that this season from him. And I think we will get that. But just because you don't get goals in a game doesn't mean that person should be written off or, it should have been someone else there and not him. He played magnificently, I thought, rewatching that game, the way he connected the ball. I'm pretty sure he lost the ball one time, and the way he was dropping back to receive, hold up, bring wingers into it, free up space for Betcher. Like, people think, Betcher is this incredible wonderkind, and I believe a lot of great things about him, but I do not think that Betcher has the game that he has if Klaus isn't his striking partner. And you see how much they're trying to make that a thing as well. They walk in together, they go to dinner together. I think they're really trying to make a duo of this. And Klaus, he also had the 2 shots on target. He got both of them on there. One was a back heel, one was a fading header off of a corner. Nothing huge, but I'm bought in. I want him to score. I think he does need to score, but I do think people need to consider there's a lot more at play here when it comes to Joao Klaus. And just because you don't get the goals doesn't mean you're not getting a version of him that could be good for this team.
Absolutely. I'm with you there, Jake. I think there's one where we talked about it in preseason and in our kind of preview for this season and all of last season. It's like, hey, if you're going to be the DP, the striker for this team, you got to put the ball away. However, now that we've added these pieces, can he find a way to play this? We don't need 5 goal scorers of 9 goals. So it's a guy of, is he going to find his role? I'm not saying that, no, he's going to be okay with just scoring 4 or 5 goals a season and being that role player. However, I do think that we created a ton of chances, and kind of turning him off on the first game doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, because you kind of have a note here, devil's advocate. Why is no one kind of lighting up Simon Betcher for finishing one of his chances? I think he had 5 shots, 3 on target. I mean, in my opinion, I wouldn't play that devil's advocate because I'm going to bring it right into it. He's my heart and soul of the game with those 5 shots and 3 on target, creating an XG of 1.05, which is 6th in the MLS as of now, obviously as of match day 1. And he suffered 3 fouls, which is giving us a chance for the set pieces that we mentioned. But Jake, I do agree what your point is there. It's like, if we're giving Klaus so much crap for not being able to get shots on goal or scoring a goal, there's a counterpart that's with him up there. So it's just one that let's pump the brakes, everybody. One game. It was a hell of a dominant performance. We got to put something away, but it doesn't need to be all drawn up onto one dude.
Certainly. And my biggest point of all is you can have any opinion you want, but in the end, let's support him. He's our player right now. We're not getting rid of him right now. We're not tearing up the contract. I think he could be a huge part of our success. Believe in him. And if it doesn't come good, we will get rid of him. But also, you got to think as a fan, you want him to come good, even if you don't want him specifically, because what value will you have to pass on to a different team? Or what would they want to buy him for if he's wasted on our team? So you got to want that. And that's what I'm missing in the fan base right now, is a general sense of we wish the best for him. Like, I want to see that, even if you don't love him personally. My heart and soul of the team, Justin, was Kessler, though. People might have thought I was going to go Klaus for that. It was Henry Kessler. I mean, he was incredible. He completed the most passes. He was the most accurate passer in the match. He had 5 passes into the final third as a central center back. He had a huge last man tackle. And I just think he was your king in the back line. He ran everything. He was all over these Colorado attackers. So I give him my props for the match. And before we pull in our coaching analyst, Justin, we are going to do a little bit of a dive here into some of the ins and outs of this new team that you're seeing all in front of you. And what better person to do that than to help us is than bringing on Kevin Kalish, Coach Kevin Kalish. Hopefully you all have heard the name. If you haven't, you're going to hear plenty over the course of the next year or so as we cover City. But Kevin, welcome to the show.
Guys, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. You guys do a great job. I'm excited.
I'm excited. So if anybody has not heard of Kevin, you're living under a rock, especially if you live in St. Louis. You need to get to Herman Stadium ASAP. But for a little background, he has been the coach of SLU. And in the past 3 years, he has coached 8 MLS draft picks, 5 of them being in the first round, 4 being Generation Adidas, including the number 2 overall pick this season, Max Floriani. Just been an incredible time with St. Louis University and had the pleasure of coaching Mr. Simon Betcher, which we were just talking about. So, Coach, just maybe to kick us off and do a little transition into this, what are you seeing, or are you proud seeing him in the starting 11? Obviously, the answer is yes, but what have you kind of seen from him that he already had from SLU and that he's bringing into City now?
Yeah, Simon, he's adapted really well. It's his game has really progressed from the moment he stepped on campus at SLU to where he is now. If you think about his sophomore year, he only had 1 or 2 goals. He didn't come in and was didn't light the world on fire, but he had to get his body right. You can see now he's extremely fit. And he just continued to progress and get better and better and better. And I think, he came out and spoke to our guys in preseason, and it's a great story. When he got drafted by, Vancouver, didn't get a first team contract, had to work his way up from, the second team in Vancouver, to finally get a chance with the first team. And then he got sold to Denmark, new coach. Yeah. Right. And so it's been a lot of adversity, and he just continues to impress. And it's like, it goes back to his character. For one, he's an unbelievably hard worker. He's a great St. Louis product, right? Hardworking mentality, loads of character. He's a great teammate. He's always about the group. He's always about the team. It's never about Simon. And you can see, like, even he's a cheeky competitor. Like he saw some of the things he does, and he gets under center back skin. He draws fouls really well, and he's really, really good in the box, and he can score goals. So I'm excited. He's in really good form. I'm excited for him.
I am too. 2 thoughts, Kevin. One, I love what you said, because I'm thinking of Betcher, and I feel like he almost in one sense sort of epitomizes a St. Louis soccer player, or sort of a St. Louisan on the soccer field, because just the energy and the passion that he puts into his game. He may not be the most refined or technically gifted player on the pitch, but goddamn, is he going to give you a hard time for 90 minutes as long as he's out there. Second point, were you the one in his ear telling him to mimic or mirror Zach Steffen in goal on the free kick? I have never seen that before. Did you teach him
that? Is Simon in a nutshell, though. I mean, whether it's in training, he'll find any rule you could ever break to win the game, So he'll do anything to win, which we are getting a good laugh out of that, and seats, 208.
That's absolutely awesome. I think that was one that when everybody saw it, they're like, yeah, this is a guy that I can root for regardless of where he's came from or how long he's been with St. Louis City. This is a guy that we love to see on our team. So, and kind of mentioning the team, Kevin, obviously this was a new style and a new team this year for us. So when you're watching the game, how would you describe the shape that we kind of used, obviously moving from a back 4 to a back 3 this year? And then what were some of the strengths that you saw Coach Mellberg kind of implement in this first game?
Yeah, so I been able to watch a few preseason games from Coachella. So pretty similar setup, right? Set up in a 3-5-2 or 3-4-3, depending on how he played the front 3 when they attacked, and then defended in a 5-2-3. More in a mid block or even a low block at times. So I feel like just defensively, I was really impressed. Just very, very solid defensively, very organized. Everybody knew their roles, very clearly defined. They worked very well together collectively. Just very difficult to break down as a whole, which I thought a lot different maybe than previous teams that we've seen Coach Carnell, where we were a bit more on the front foot, trying to maybe press in the opposition's half and turn teams over. So I felt like he just a little bit more conservative to control spaces. And look, it worked extremely well on the defensive side. They didn't give up. I think their expected goals was close to 0.
Yeah.
Right. Not many chances. Berkey will always make the saves he's supposed to make. So I'm not sure if he went that route because he prefers to play 3-5-2, or if he felt like we have a lot of very good center backs. But for the first game from the defensive side, really, really impressed across the board. And attacking wise, again, I thought we had more control than previous years. I thought Coach Hackworth, when he came in, I thought we were a bit more of a possession-oriented team late last year. But I just felt like we controlled the game on both sides of the ball against Colorado. And just having 3 center backs and 2 holding midfielders in front of them just gives you a bit more control in the build-up phase of the game. And I thought you kind of saw that. We just we're missing that little final piece in the final third.
Agreed, Kevin. I want to kind of break in our conversation to both, sort of the attack and the defensive changes that we've at least noticed so far. I want to focus, at least in the beginning, on, as you think about our buildup, the buildup for us used to be very short and quick, one of the most direct teams in the league last year and the year prior. And when you think about this, it's a little more methodical to it. It's not, your most beautiful yet. We're not there yet. And maybe we don't need to be there. But in terms of how we progress the ball, I kind of talked with Justin right before you joined about we were kind of shifted a little bit more to the right as a team just because we were playing not so much a left wing back out at left wing back, a little bit more stay at home type defender in Horn. But you saw Totland have a lot more freedom up the right channel. And it seemed to me, at least, Kevin, I want to get your 2 senses. This is a team that we can build up a little more comfortably now, but our goal, it felt like, to get it down the wings and to serve in crosses into a dangered and kind of crowd-filled box. Was that your take, or is there anything else you kind of saw as a sort of keynote as to how we kind of progressed the ball?
Yeah, I thought we were pretty varied in our build-up. I thought we were at times we would be somewhat direct, and at times we would play through Loven or just find harder between the lines, or Simon would stretch the game at times. So. But I think you'll probably see our attack develop even more and more in the final third as the season goes on. Right. I think it's never easy to get a lot done in a short preseason, but I agree. I thought that was the one area of our team that I thought maybe wasn't as efficient. I thought serving balls from wide channels, it's a very low percentage. And I thought, outside of like a lot of our expected goals came from, the long throw in on the one, maybe I think maybe another transition moment, but I feel like hopefully they'll try to get more box crosses and get into those assist zones in the wide areas of the box a bit more to create higher quality chances as the season goes on.
Yeah, I appreciate that, because I really do think that it was kind of hit or miss. It didn't seem like it was as flowing as we would typically see, but with those longer throws, it's something Jake and I kind of talked about earlier in the episode. It's good to see that we're seeing some set pieces and some chances that are there, because I think we missed that last year. But maybe also transitioning, Kevin, back to the defensive side. When you're looking at us from this team with this different lineup, we used to play that energy drink soccer, right, when it first started with Carnell and all of that. And you kind of smirk because I think that term gets thrown around quite a bit. Now when we're applying defensive pressure, where did you see things that we really improved upon, or a different aspect, and things that we could still improve upon going forward with that defensive play and pressure?
I think it'll be really interesting to see when we play against different shapes and different styles how he adjusts tactically, right? I thought we were set up extremely well against Colorado. I didn't feel like I didn't feel like it was their best game, at least from what I've seen in the past. I was fairly underwhelmed with their overall attack and whatnot, but I think we did a good job controlling spaces. Just shifting collectively as a group, never leaving too many gaps to expose. And, when you're defending, right around half line, there just isn't a ton of space to play. You got to either play through their lines, or maybe you're clipping a ball in behind and trying to win seconds. But, it's challenging, right? Especially when you get high quality players. So just felt like they're very compact, very organized. And I think it'll just be interesting to see if that changes from game to game, or if that's kind of the style and system that he kind of settles in on.
Just to take the defensive side one more step here, Kevin, we have a lot of listeners that are really into soccer and have been for their whole lives. You have, others that are newer and have caught on because the bug catches, man. I mean, 2023 was electric. And we always try to paint more context and even, take some time to explain some different things. But, we've come up the last, season, the last 2 seasons in a back 4, right? And now we were doing this back 3, and then people, I feel like it's a buzzword still for a lot of folks, and for some they may not kind of understand why a coach might want to shift to that or what that kind of fundamentally does to a team. Can you maybe just give your 2 cents on sort of the key highlights when you think about a back 4 versus a back 3 and having 3 center backs deployed there, and we know why a coach might tend to do that?
Yeah, look, I think when you're playing out of a back 3 or a back 5, because oftentimes it ends up being a back 5, especially if a team plays with high and wide wingers. You got to have to make the decision: are you going to send your wing backs back to deal with their wingers, or are you going to kind of leave them open in those spaces and wide channels a bit, and because your 3 can't shift quick enough, right? So I think some teams can do it, but it's a tough system to press out of when you play with a back 3 or a back 5. I think it's something that you can, but you got to be really shift extremely well, and your wing backs have to be very dynamic and ground covering wide players, right? So it's just I think a lot of it may be based on personnel, but to me, it's a bit more of a conservative approach. It's a bit more of controlling spaces. You're playing a bit more in transition from deeper spaces, right? So as where I think again, playing 4 in the back is a little bit more well balanced. You can maybe have players higher up in the midfield line or in the attacking line where you can maybe trap and press out of things a little bit easier. So I think it's just a bit more in terms of where you're putting the extra player. You put them in the back, you put them in midfield, or you're going to put them up top. And in this situation, I think they it could be personnel based, but they're going with the back 5.
And that makes sense. And I think a lot of what we talked about has been more about the pregame and what we're going to do with the lineup there. But I wanted to also get your thoughts, Kevin, on the in-game tactics. I think there have been some frustrations in the past with Carnell, probably not as much with Hack. But obviously in this game, it seemed like we were pretty dominant. As a coach, and when you're looking at this, what are some of the things that you're looking for to say, like, hey, we're killing the game here, but we got to find a way to get points? I know we could see from Olaf's perspective, he put in Morales in the 69th and then Toyshirt and Conrad Valum in the 81st. What are going through your thoughts going through your head during this time period to really kind of not rock the boat, but shake the tree a little bit and see if we can get a goal?
Yeah, look, I didn't see a ton of tactical adjustments from either team, to be honest with you. Just purely I thought the personnel changes. I thought maybe Morales coming in maybe is a bit more of a connector than Loven, but I wouldn't say too much. Similar profile. So I didn't see a ton of tactical tweaks from either side. I think Colorado was probably happy with the draw, right? I think if you told them going into this game they would come out with a point, they'd be happy. But I thought as Colorado started to fatigue, I thought our center backs were able to step in higher, play more progressive passes in between the lines. I think you're kind of what I was looking for is, are we getting the ball beyond their midfield line in those inside channels or those half spaces, right? You see a lot of goals come from those moments where you're slipping final passes in or you're curling balls to dangerous spots in the box. So I was just seeing how well we were progressing to get into those spots of the field, and whether we were getting baseline or getting box crosses, were we generating high quality chances or just a lot of possession? So I thought as Colorado fatigued, we got more and more chances, especially when we reinserted some guys into the lineup. But I know City was all disappointed not to get 3 points. I felt like they deserved it.
Kevin, one more thing city-oriented before you do a couple final questions for you, a little more agnostic here. When all healthy, which is rare, and especially if you look at last season, which I think is why we've kind of stocked up from the center back aisle this past summer, who is your rock in the back? Who is the guy that you don't think we will be, our most successful if he's gone for this season? Who is your favorite, center back, or the guy that you look at as the leader of that back line? In some TBD, right?
Yeah.
New faces, but
yeah, Kessler for sure. I mean, and I thought he was in really good form. I thought he looked a lot more mobile than even last year. Seemed like he's leaned up a bit. It just seemed like he was moving better. He's covering ground well. He's always been a great passer. Even when we played against his UVA team in 2019. He's always just been a top talent. But he's good in the air. He's a great passer. He can box defend well. He covers spaces well. So to me, like he's a guy that would be tough to replace. Now I haven't had a chance to watch the new addition, the German. I can't recall.
Baumgartel. Yep.
Baumgartel. But I feel like he may be a similar profile. And I think so. I'll be interested to see how he does as well.
Yep.
Yeah. And quick shout out to Eddie off of Instagram for bringing that question in for us. And one more fan or follower question, and one you probably get consistently, Kevin, but with a larger audience, I think it's very important as we have a decently large following from high school and college players around St. Louis. But as a coach, when you're looking for guys and looking for someone to bring in to the St. Louis University team, what would you recommend for high schoolers to focus on when trying to play collegiate ball?
Yeah, so I think first and foremost, depending on what age they are, I think you got to find a team that they're going to have a really, obviously quality experience at, right? So it doesn't do you any good if you're going to go play for a team, maybe it's a higher level, but you're not going to play much or you're not going to develop, right? So I think it's first and foremost, you got to play and you got to develop and you got to enjoy your experience. You got to keep getting better. I think, we've seen a lot of guys in a lot of different environments continually improve and maybe not have been the highest environment from the start, but they just got better and better and better in the current environment they're in. So I think it's important to make that note. And then after that, I feel like as you continue to progress, the more exposure that you can get, depending on what platform you play in, there's a lot of different platforms now these days, whether it's MLS Next, whether it's ECNL, whether it's USYS. So there's a lot of different platforms to choose from, but just playing at the highest level possible and then being able to get in front of as many coaches as you can. I think obviously ID camps are I always tell players, if you have a destination school or you have a school you really are interested in academically and you want to get in front of that coach, the easiest way is just to go to an ID camp where you can play in front of them for a day and a half. And the staff. So obviously a lot of the showcases, you'll be able to, get maybe 20 coaches at a game or 10 coaches at a game. So it's a little bit different approach, but there's no one size fits all in this. And I always tell a lot of the different players that come on campus, it's a process and it's not always going to go exactly the way you think it's going to go. You have to be patient. You got to stay diligent. And just try to get yourself in front of as many coaches as you can and keep improving.
Yeah, and quick, before we get into one more question, Jake, I just want to give a quick shout out to Kevin. So I know you guys just released your 2025 camp schedule as well. So if anybody hasn't seen that, go to SLU Men's Soccer on Instagram or Twitter. Go check those out. You guys got, six camps coming up between April and July. And I know that you guys also just recently sold out your winter showcase, or prospect camp. So this is something that Kevin is very driven by, and he just gave you the keys to the mansion. If you want to get in front of this, man, go to our camps.
So funny story. Max Floriani was a guy we found at our prospect camp. So I'm a firm believer that there's so many players now that are out there these days. Like you can't get out to see all of them, right? So I think, if you want to, showcase yourself, we'd love to come watch you and also show you a lot about SLU and the campus as well.
That's actually really cool. I did not know that about Max, but from ID camp to number 2 overall, I mean, it's absolutely crazy. And Kevin, I mean, we'd be remiss if we didn't back it up a little bit and just give you a massive kudos to what you've done with the SLU men's program and even your counterpart Katie Shields on the women's side. I mean, SLU is the place to be. I feel like it's constantly name dropped on every city broadcast whenever Betcher's playing about, how much of a powerhouse SLU has been and is today as well. So I know you all, Kevin, are rolling here into the spring schedule very, very soon. How are you feeling heading into the 2025 season, off the back of a couple of pretty solid years? Are there any goals or things you want to cue this audience into, who I know also definitely follows SLU soccer? How's it been going for you guys?
Yeah, no, thanks for the shout out, Jake. I appreciate it. And obviously Justin, was Billiken himself, right? So thanks to you guys, some new gear there, Justin, though.
Yeah, it's a little outdated.
It'll be in the mail. No, we're excited. So look, if you think about 21, 9 of our guys left after that year and went signed professionally. So we had to go heavy into the portal in 22. And ever since then, we've kind of had this model where we've had an existing core group of guys within our program that really understand our culture and understand our legacy and what we're about. And then we've supplemented it from the portal, especially because you had that extra year of COVID, right? So we've always kind of found 4 to 5, maybe older or difference makers that could come in and contribute. And we've kind of kept that model now all the way up until this past year. So we graduated, including Max, who signed 14 guys. So we got a lot of good young players coming in. A lot of St. Louis guys, a lot of Midwest guys. It'll be a bit of a new cycle of guys. So a lot of young, good talent that we'll build with over the next 2 to 3 to 4 years. So I'm excited. We actually played City 2 this morning at 9:00 at City 2. City 2 was the winner, 1-0, but it was a good game. Great, a lot of good young talent on the field.
That is some insight that you are not going to get to see everywhere, ladies and gentlemen. And then also just another quick shout out to Kevin when he says guys from St. Louis and from the Midwest. Just know this was not something that has always been for St. Louis. This is something that Kevin has brought in and truly means it and keeps guys home in St. Louis. So I really do appreciate that, kind of seeing these guys come through the ranks and be able to play at St. Louis University after growing up, playing at Soccer Park, playing at anywhere around St. Louis, playing on the Hill. So Kevin, just want to thank you again for joining us. This has been a blast, and we will definitely have you on very soon.
Yeah, happy to do it anytime, guys. Thanks so much.
Thanks a lot,
Thank
Kevin.
you.
See you guys.
All right. So Justin, let's bring it home here. Wow. So fun picking the brain of a brain in this game right now that's dealing with some young, developing minds and producing some top end talent. Clear proof from the last couple of years of MLS Super Drafts. We've talked to a couple of them on the show, Pat Schulte being one of them, and Betcher obviously flying for City right now. Are you going to show us here something, Justin?
Jake, I'm so impressed with Kevin. It's like, oh yeah, we reached out to him earlier this week. I'm good to hop on Wednesday. Like, you just played the City 2 team less than 12 hours ago. Like, the man,
unreal,
just the nicest guy, and huge shout out to him. And I think those guys are going to be doing some pretty big things this year.
And we'll be keeping you all tuned in on that as well. We're looking to maybe do some more SLU content here shortly, maybe more of a dedicated episode at some point, because there's just so much great going on with SLU. And we're both obviously graduates from St. Louis U. But Kevin will be joining us. If you all have coaching type questions or things that you want to learn more about or dive deeper into, he's a brain that we can tap into throughout the season. So make sure you send us those. Finally, Justin, we had to talk a little about San Diego, right? I mean, we're heading to San Diego. First of all, is this the new best away trip location? I think it might be. San Diego's pretty cool of a city, but they got off to a nice little start over the weekend. Obviously, they're the newest expansion team, and they've highlighted kind of that team with, I'd call, 3 pretty big signings, and they've got room for another big one, and rumors are abound on this one. But they signed Chucky Lozano as one of their first signings, obviously their first DP. He's a legend Mexican player for the national team, as well as playing kind of all over Europe, most recently with PSV. He's a dynamic, excellent winger who's still only 29, has plenty of time left to make an impact. I think he'll have a little bit of a chip on his shoulder heading to MLS this season, see what he can do. They also signed opposite him, Anders Dreyer, who scored both goals for them in the opener against Galaxy in their 2-0 W at home, at LA Galaxy's home, which is absurd. LA Galaxy had not lost at home since the previous season, and the previous being not 2024, 2023. And this guy was electric. He's 26. They bought him for $5 million from Anderlecht in the Belgian top flight, where he netted 15 goals and 8 assists last season. So, Justin, it's just cool because you're starting to see, like, who knows what they'll do this season, but the ability to go poach that guy from Belgium, which is, I would say, a feeder into the top 5 European leagues, typically, especially with numbers like that. This guy's now coming to MLS. Times are changing.
I mean, we talked about this earlier with Indy as well. I think a perfect one to bring into the mold here is Luca De La Torre that they signed on loan as well. 26-year-old, had plenty of caps for the U.S. men's national team. And I think this is one where, hey, if he's not getting time with Celta de Vigo, he's going to come over here and he's going to be starting and playing for San Diego and being a critical role player for them as well. Sorry, critical in his role as a player for them. He's going to be a starter for them consistently. So able to carry the ball out of tight spots, and a U.S. men's national team player. Jake, tell me if I'm wrong here, but outside of Pat Schulte, is he probably one of the best U.S. men's national team players in the MLS? Well, I guess he is Team Marine too, but this is up and coming guy.
Yeah, I mean, best. I mean, he was on the roster for the 2022 World Cup, And I think he's a solid ball player, man. I think this was a bit of it was an opportunistic move from San Diego to grab him at this time. But his quality showed immensely in that first game against Galaxy. He was the metronome for that team. Everything went through him. It was almost like Leuven, but even more so, like defensively, offensively, he was everywhere, put in an absolute shift. And he's one of those guys where he's so good that I feel like if he were to go down or if he's not in a game for them, I don't know what this team's going to look like, because I was so impressed watching him. And the reason I watched is because Sunday Night Soccer, by the way. That was Sunday Night Soccer game. It was really cool, man. I'm probably going to watch that every single Sunday. It's a chill way to kind of head into the end of the weekend, and you're seeing hopefully a marquee matchup there, and there's more production around it. You got Weeby talking to fans outside the stadium. It was cool, and it was cool to just give a little more attention and love to the products of soccer, and for MLS especially, I think it was a hit.
It's a perfect time for them to take over, Jake. You talk about it. It's like a nice ease into your week. That's what Sunday Night Football used to be. I'm trying to get some of my friends like Robbie Vosbrink, quick shout out, start watching some soccer. And if you don't have time, you don't want to do it on your Saturday night or your Saturday or go to a city game, sit on your couch and just at 7:30, 7 o'clock p.m. on Sundays, whenever the time is each week, and tune in some Sunday Night Soccer. It's a great, great product that Apple's putting together.
So City's going to have their work cut out for them heading to San Diego. Hot off the 2-0 against the reigning MLS Cup champs. This is a team that can play out of the back. They will do that in some high-risk situations sometimes. They are good in possession. They can definitely control games from what I just saw in that one match. A lot of short little passes, tiki-taka here and there. And again, excellent winger play who are capable of scoring big, big goals. And who do I expect to see go against San Diego FC for their home opener? Well, that'll bring us into the Hoffman Brothers starting 11. So Hoffman Bros, Justin, I've had the pleasure of talking about it, I think 2 weeks ago when you weren't here, and then again last week, but partnered with Stray Rescue for the month of February and March. We're just tail end of February, so about halfway through. But again, a portion of all sales during these 2 months for Hoffman Brothers are going to Stray Rescue of St. Louis. And what better partnership can I think of than that? It's incredible to know that a local firm here that does everything under the roof, that is so near and dear to St. Louisans' hearts, especially my own, with how much they've helped me in some tight spots with my home, is willing to also give back themselves. You know what I mean? It's just an incredible commitment to the community. And they've been doing this for 11 years now. So again, if you're trying to think at the right time to make a move or to make a play and help shore up some things on the home front, what better time than right now when a portion goes to Stray Rescue of St. Louis as well?
Jake, I'm amped because that we're working on in the background, trying to do a little episode over there, having them bring in some puppies. I don't know if you're going to even get me talking about soccer. I'm just going to be holding 2 little puppies right here. So if you haven't already, call Hoffman Brothers 314-664-3011. Or if for whatever reason, if you don't have a cell phone, but you have a computer, go to hoffmanbros.com and sign up for their annual plan. I think this is what we talked about it. White glove service. If you don't have their home protection plan, you need to get it. This is something, again, don't walk, run. Don't wait for the heat to crank up and then your AC goes out. Get ahead of the game now.
Love it. Justin, goals for the game. So San Diego here coming up really quick. I want to see a continuation of something from that last game. I want to see that same defensive prowess that made us just so comfortable and confident in the back. Whereas last year, I used to feel like there was, durations or waves during a game where I was biting my nails. I was creeping into the corner like, oh no, when is this goal coming? We're reducing those from durations and 10-minute windows to moments now. And it's just getting tighter and tighter. And I can say that from one game. And if you can bottle up that San Diego offense after they just put 2 past the Galaxy and stop the momentum train from picking up too much steam, I think that'd be another nice win in your defensive column there. So for me, if I can see a game with less than 2 goals against San Diego and take the win out of their sails, give your team a chance to win that, and against 2 pacey, really quality wingers, my goal is to prevent them from scoring more than 2 goals.
I think that's a great goal to have, because I think if we do that, obviously we should get out of there with a point, because I don't think we're going to go back-to-back games without scoring a goal. But my goal for this game, Jake, is to score a goal first. You know that this plays, everybody remembers like our home opener, even this past weekend, that's our 3rd season. This is going to be their first ever game at home. They're going to be absolutely electric. And if you let them score first, the roof is going to get blown off, and it's going to be such a hard hole to climb out of. So my goal for this game is to score first. What is your prediction for this game, Jake?
I'm not predicting a win. I was going to say I would love a win because we only had one last year. But I think, again, I don't want people to conflate. It was frustrating not to get a win here at home for our first match, but getting a point on the road is great. And you'll take those whenever you can. Obviously, if you can steal the win, you got to steal the win and go for the throat. But getting a point on the road against a plucky expansion side who we don't really know what they are yet, I think would be a win for us. So for me, I'm predicting a 2-2 draw.
So Jake, I'm actually going to go on the positive side. Yeah, I think theoretically it'd be good to go on the road and get a point, but I'm going to paint the narrative, and I can already read the headlines that previous expansion team knocks off new expansion team or current expansion team. And this is a team that's coming in hot. They just won their Super Bowl. They just won 2-0 at LA Galaxy, a team that had not lost at home in 2024. We're going to walk right in, blow the doors off them with a 2-1 dub. It'll be a lot closer than blowing doors off them, but I'll take the win.
Just lightly pushing the doors off them. How about that? Just like a gentle one.
Yeah.
Justin, last segment for us. We haven't mentioned our partners. I think you maybe named up them once during episodes so far, but Underdog, we are off and running with our new partners for 2025. They are available to play in over 35 states, including right here in Missouri. You all might have seen the news this week. All of your typical sports gaming sites are pushed off at least until I believe the end or the beginning of August right now before they would become active or legal in Missouri. Underdog is not that. Underdog is fantasy gaming. You can do Underdog right now. Go download the app on your phone. You can go online, search Underdog, and see what it's all about. And if you want to go even further, you can join with our promo code as a first-time player. All one word, just ball watching. Or go to our socials and check it out. There's plenty of ways you can find it and have some fun. Mix and match sports. Look for your favorite players and make your entry and get in on the action. You get a good free pick for joining as a first-time player. And Justin, we got to be transparent, though. We put out our official entry for the first match, and it wasn't a winner. Let's just say that.
Yeah, it wasn't. So, Jake, I know it kind of takes up a little bit more of the screen. I'll work on slimming it down. But this is our first one. So, for anybody that isn't seeing it visually, our first entry was for Roman Berkey to have over 2.5 saves. Sorry, higher than 2.5 saves. What stinks about that is, a good thing is that he didn't even have one. So, that part of the entry did not hit for us. We had Zach Steffen higher than 1.5 goals allowed. Yeah, I thought we were going to score 2 goals at home.
Yeah.
Didn't happen. Unfortunate. We're kind of kicking ourselves while we're down here. But get down to Joao Klaus. We have higher than a half a shot on target. That man took that home with ease. So we're going to be cooking one up for you guys for this game this weekend as well. So be on the lookout for our entry of the week.
Yeah, and I created a community for us on X. If some of you all are against it, you don't want to do it, or you're fundamentally, whatever reason, no judgment here at all. We like to do a little bit of this to kind of make some things a little more fun, have a little more action on some of these games. And, we think we might have an advantage with some of what we know as well. And hopefully we're sharing that knowledge with you all. I know that's what every famous person says before things go downhill, but we do. We actually do feel like we know her. But it's fun. It's really fun. So we have a community on X. If you want to follow, join in, definitely just reach out. I can add you to that, or you can join it. I think it's called City Dogs. So it's fun. Rough. But
one more thing I'm going to say on this as well. I know we kind of looped this in, and we're running a little long today, obviously with our interview, which absolutely worth it. But if you're looking at what are we projected to win this game, what are the odds for this game? San Diego is plus 100. We are plus 245. So we are heavy underdogs on this game as well. So, but if I were to make a bet outside of underdog, I would be putting it on the over 1.5 or the higher than 1.5 goals for City at plus 120.
I like that. So plenty of action on the match. It's going to be, if I want to be a late one, going to be a 9:30 Central Time kick for this one, but you best know we'll be tuning in. We'll be back next week to do a little bit of a recap on that, maybe engage a new panel member. We shall see, and talk about the next. So these games are going to start coming hot and heavy. But thank you all for joining today. Make sure you throw us a follow on social media on X or Instagram at ballwatchingstl. Throw us a subscribe, a like on YouTube. Give us your comments. Give us your feedback. We're starting to pull and tap on some of the best minds that we can at least tap into, with having AJ Cochran on last or 2 weeks ago, and then Kevin Kalish here tonight. So make sure that you all let us know what you think about those, what you do, what you don't like. If you have questions, let us know. We want to hear from you all. This is a team event for sure. So Thank you all for tuning in for the live show. We'll be back again next week. And until then, all for City.
All for City.